Sorry, I was supposed to move this.
So I have to acknowledge the program director, but I also like to acknowledge Ed. That's how we call him in the workplace, because he's now part of us as civil servants in government, the commissioner of SARS. And then, of course, I am here with my team from the department, and I'm grateful to them. Mboneni, Dr. Moff, I'm told now, and Toto, and then Professor Benny, of course, Anderson. Representatives of the companies that are going to be winning tonight, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to clarify this thing of the best Director General, because it's been a bit unfair in the sense that the awards actually come with the best department, which means that a Director General who directs nothing is useless. So I would have been happier if people were celebrating the people and the staff at the DSI, because they actually do all the work. My job is just to sign things. If it's about a check that must come, that's all I do. But I really want to say that it's really the people that I work with that I'm celebrating, not necessarily myself. But it is a great honor and privilege for me to be talking to you this evening. But let me start off by congratulating the winners of the TT100 Business Awards. I believe this is the 29th anniversary. With time, these awards have become an important measure of the quality of innovation in the private sector. However, I just want to start by reminding you that the story of human innovation is as old as humanity itself. Regardless of the difficulties that human beings have encountered over time, they have always found creative ways of responding to the challenges that they are confronted with. Over the past 100 years, there are a number of inventions that were created, and I just want to remind you of a couple of them. Electric power drill, the pop-up toaster, we take these things for granted, the hair dryer for the women, this is important, electric kettle, car radio, the smoke detector, electric razor, the list goes on and on. But I do want to talk about our favorite South African innovation. I'm sure you didn't know about this, the breathalyzer. And for those of you who do go to beaches, when you see those concrete slabs that are put on the beach, it's a South African innovation. And you'll be amazed at how it breaks the waves and stops the water from coming to people. All of these interventions and more were produced under some of the most difficult times of the past century. And in spite of this, their inventors still went ahead and produced them. Today, there is no doubt that the single biggest challenge, of course, facing us is the COVID-19 pandemic. The advent of this pandemic is without doubt one of the most daunting challenges of our time. This virus has not only changed our day-to-day habits, it has also altered the ways in which our public and private institutions function and interact. In fact, it has even altered the way in which our world functions, and we can see this today. However, notwithstanding the impact of this virus on our daily lives and the world in which we live in, scientists, researchers, and technology entrepreneurs from across the globe have not stopped to innovate because of COVID. And they have continued to innovate in spite of COVID. And their innovations have been designed to help humanity respond more creatively to what has been referred to as the new normal. So let me just share with you some of these innovations, two of them that we've come across with. In the United States of America, scientists at MIT have designed a robot that uses short wavelength ultraviolet light, known as UVC, to break apart germ DNA. During testing, the robot covered a total of 4,000 square foot warehouse within 30 minutes, providing enough ultraviolet light to neutralize up to 90% of coronavirus particles. The robot has already been used to disinfect the Greater Boston Food Bank, and researchers believe the system could be used in venues ranging from factories and warehouses to schools, offices, supermarkets, and restaurants. As you may have noticed, smartphones are increasingly being used for accessing some of our most important social services. A UK-based company developed a mobile application called DocDot that uses artificial intelligence to enable clinicians to monitor vital signs remotely. This app works by using a light signal processing technology known as remote photoplethysmography, or PPG, through which a smartphone camera records light reflected by blood vessels beneath the skin. Blood volume in microvascular tissue varies in response to respiration, blood pressure, and other changes. The app converts this into measurements that are reportedly 90% as accurate as hospital-grade monitors. Using DocDot, people can look into their smartphone screens and share early indicators of infection. But of course, we are in South Africa, so I also want to talk to you about some exciting and life-changing innovations that are aligned to the theme of tonight, creating transdisciplinary realities. These transdisciplinary innovations would not have been possible without the indefatigable spirit of the bold innovators of our time. And just as importantly, they would not have been possible, we think, if it wasn't for the support of the state. It is for this reason that we recognize as government that one of our key obligations is to provide a conducive climate for individuals, businesses, and other social institutions, companies to thrive. This includes creating an enabling legislative, policy, and regulatory framework for the development of innovative technologies and solutions for pressing societal problems. To this end, we as a Department of Science and Innovation, and please note that we are no longer science technology, and we are taking care and trying to define what we mean by innovation that has been added. And you will see, in fact, on the banner that we have already come up with what is called the tagline. And part of the things that we think we can do is to make sure that certain things are possible. And that is what we'll be spending a lot of time in the next 2 years demonstrating and showcasing within government. So let me share with you a few examples of some of the things that we have done as a department, not alone, of course, with a range of our stakeholders in the public and in the private sector in response to COVID. There are 4 pillars which I would like to just share with you in short. Analytics and modeling. We all know that at the time, maybe not all of you knew about this, that we had to come up with estimates as to how many people would be infected and when the peak will happen. So we drew on the investments that we had made long time ago at the Center for Epidemiological Modeling and Analysis and asked them if they can help us to do this. And if I remember very well at the time, they said 2 things. One is they said that approximately 700 100,000 plus minus South Africans will be infected, and that will get the peak around July, August. The rest is history. But the important thing is that it was using investments that were made long time ago in the area of science, technology, and innovation to be able to respond to the pandemic. There is the work that we've been doing on research and innovation. I will share with you just one example of the investment that we made in the early 2000s in the area of genomics. And then we also looked at manufacturing, again, how a multidisciplinary team came together to try and come with a national ventilator project, because as we all know, the challenges of COVID is to make sure that when we have problems breathing, there's enough ventilators. So in fact, I'm told that in one of the meetings that our president was having with a number of other presidents, the president of one country whose tenure is coming to an end asked our president what is it that he can give to the president of South Africa. So our president said, we will offer you ventilators. This is the president of the United States of America. Because we invested in developing our own locally produced ventilators. A wonderful story of the expertise that we had in South Africa to build the telescope in the Karoo. So the capability of the scientists and engineers that have been trying to look at how you digitize signals, yeah, that have been on the universe over the last 13.5 billion years, very faint signals that you have to then digitize on the antenna and then process them through a locally produced fast computer in Karoo and then try and make sense of what has happened in the universe. They were then the project coordinators working with the Council for Scientific Industrial Research and private companies. Of course, this was essential because the number of ventilators available in the global market had plummeted, and we all know this. And therefore, the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory, working with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, had to work in providing project management, technical guidance, industry engagement, and communication services to the NVP. I think it's over 20,000 of these that have now been completed and they've been delivered. The interesting thing, of course, with this story is that all of a sudden, we've been asked as the Department of Science and Innovation to think about contributing to the reindustrialization of South Africa. And we will, of course, be indicating to the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition not only what we can do using this example of the National Ventilator Project, but a range of things that we think we can do. The second example that I want to share with you is the KwaZulu-Natal Research and Innovation Sequencing Platform. This investment was made early 2000. So it's a platform that is at UKZN, CAPRISA, and also funded by the Technology Innovation Agency and ourselves as the Department of Science and Innovation, as part of the infrastructure that we thought is important in the country in the diplomics platform. So what they did is to produce cutting-edge research, support industrial development, and capacitate the next generation of scientists in South Africa. In January, this platform, called CRISP in short, worked with other international groups and developed genomic detective software as an open source tool to help with speed the analysis of the first SARS-CoV-2 genomes. Since then, the software has been used by over 1,000 of scientists all over the world. And this is coming from your own country, KwaZulu-Natal. Don't ask me where I come from. In February, CRISP began with the capacity building and training of 5,000 healthcare workers in order to prepare them from the frontline response. CRISP also organized and ordered critical supply chains for reagents and PPEs, optimized protocols for qPCR diagnostic testing from Thermo Fisher Scientific. In March, CRISP started performing qPCR testing with Caprisa as part of the Sentinel population cohort to determine when SARS-CoV-2 infections were first seen in South Africa. Don't believe everything that you read in newspapers. Believe what CRISP tells you as to when this happened. It may not be the person from Italy in KZN. In April, our team of infectious disease specialists led an investigation into local nosocomial outbreak early on in the pandemic, which led to science touted as one of the most important and in-depth studies of nosocomial transmissions globally. I can go on and on and on and say that in July, CRISP began assisting the NHLS qPCR testing backlog. You remember there was a time when there was a backlog and you were wondering how the backlog was moved away, and it is them that came to the party to try and assist in this. Critical data analysis in real time and key partnership with NextTrain and GISAID allowed for in-country curation of all data, and CRISP was invited by the World Health Organization and Africa Center for Disease Control to join the Genomics Surveillance Network and in Network for Genomic Surveillance in South Africa. So it's a very important platform. Now, where is CRISP going? And I'll tell you where I'm going with this. We plan to expand diagnostic services to help public health beyond KwaZulu-Natal to other provinces. And we are collaborating with Dube Trade Port to set up offices and a high-throughput laboratory at the port. Through this partnership, leverage Dube Trade Port systems to import bulk raw reagents. This will result in more rapid health diagnostics. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because most of the companies around here, we think that they should partner with these public institutions to take some of these ideas into the marketplace. So we're inviting you to work with us. Knock on our doors. We are always available to come and find out what's possible. I'm just sharing with you two examples, and if you, of course, you come to us, we'll be able to share with you many. Two more, and then I will conclude. We've also, and Ed knows this very well, have been setting up a National Policy Data Observatory. When COVID started, and I did tell you about the modeling work, a center was set up at the CSIR, and it has been collecting a range of tools on how we can manage the pandemic. And one of the tools that they have developed is something called movement tracking. So when you move with your cell phone, we can see where you're moving from. So they've been doing this, but there are many, many, many other tools that they have developed. So we've partnered then as a Department of Science and Technology with Statistics South Africa and the South African Revenue Services to establish this National Policy Data Observatory. We want to use data to provide scientific analysis to inform government-wide economic recovery, how the pandemic, or how we are likely to get the second resurgence and where it will come from, amongst other things, and also to manage other areas of social change and social psycho-support. Recently, we were looking at the data from this observatory, and it was very, very interesting to see some of the variables in this movement of people in the Eastern Cape. So we're not surprised to see that the hospitals in the Eastern Cape have a problem, because we were able to see that the movements before the pandemic was people, of course, at home and people going to work. And then after the lockdown level, alert level 1, people, according to this They were moving to work, and they're moving to parks. So this is where the data tells us. Now, what we don't know, of course, is what is it that they are doing at the parks? And I don't think Nelson Mandela is an area with lots of parks. So what we are now going to do is we are going to overlay this data with other social determinants of what's happening in order to provide government with the reasons why this is the case. So can you imagine an interdisciplinary problem like this that needs to be solved by data analytics, social determinants, as well as the pandemic? So again, another example of transdisciplinary. So in conclusion then, ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 represents one of the most daunting challenges of our time, but I also believe that the challenges that COVID has presented us also gives us and provides us with excellent opportunities to think things differently. This therefore means that we have it in us to turn the threat that is posed by the pandemic into an opportunity to produce some of the most advanced innovations of our time. I've given you 2 from abroad, maybe 2 from South Africa. Inspired by the spirit of your theme, I hope we will embrace the challenge and add fuel to our zeal to innovate. And the companies that are being honored here tonight will also join the national effort, as I've invited you to a few that I shared with you, in ensuring that our country responds more creatively to the challenges of our time. My team knows that one of the most frustrating things for myself is to come back overseas and find myself waiting in a long queue at the airport. I have no reason to do that anymore. The second one is I don't see any reason why I should go to the traffic department to go and renew my license. With the technology today, honestly, I don't have to. So this is some of the things that will be driving within government. It will be easy for all of us here gathered to take comfort in the possibility that future generations are likely to reflect positively on us for the decision we made in the context of our time, which decisions have a direct bearing on their future. Congratulations to all the companies being honored tonight, and thank you for your patience.